Well, good evening. My name is Steve Clark and I'm the Chair for Citizens for Direct Democracy. And I'd like to talk to you this evening about a couple of things. I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping items first, and that is that we have affiliated with the Kawartha Lakes Taxpayers Association. And it would seem that there are quite a few people like ourselves that are concerned with the way our money is being spent by the city and some of the regulations and also the rate at which our property taxes are going up. And that would be about 21% in a little over 4 years. That will include this year's projected increase of 4% for the residents of the city of Kawartha Lakes. The other thing is that one of our projects for this year is that we are going to be making a report card on each of the councillors, because we felt for a long time that one of the things that's lacking at the municipal level of government is a critic. You'll notice that at the provincial and the federal levels of government that the opposition parties always have a critic to research and report back on the doings of the government in power. And so we decided that we would do this with a report card, and so we will be tracking each councillor throughout the 4 years, and we will be publishing a yearly report through the news media and also online through our website and YouTube channel. Okay, so that brings us on to the topic of this evening, and this is a bylaw that is being changed, and it's only a small change, but it has an incredible chilling effect on the committees of council. So in the city of Kawartha Lakes there are these committees of council, and these committees are formed by members of the public, a councillor and usually a staff member to take notes and so on and so forth. And they are to advise council in different areas. So there is a Parks and Recs committee, there is an environmental advisory committee, there is a public review committee, there is a waste management committee, many committees, agricultural committee, to cover all different aspects of the different purviews of council. So what you do, you apply to council. They will advertise when there is a vacancy on one of these committees, and if you're interested you go through the application process, which is pretty straightforward, but the particular aspect I want to deal with is the removal of a member of one of these committees, because this is the area in which this bylaw is being amended, and as you'll see as I go through this, the alarming anti-democratic behaviour and effects of this bylaw change are beyond the pale. Anyway, let's take a little look at that, and then I'll come back and wrap up and identify one or two areas where this might be a real issue. Okay, so let's take a little look at those. Okay, so this is a document we have right now. And so we'll just scroll down to the offending part. Most of this is just basically annual appointment advertising requirements, appointment procedure, so on and so forth. This is all pretty straightforward, and so no big deal here, but this is what it used to say to terminate a committee member. A proposed recommendation to Council to terminate the appointment of a member of a committee based on reasons other than those set out under section 6.01 shall not be considered at any meeting of the committee unless notice of the proposed recommendation to terminate the appointment has been given to the member of the committee as set out in 6.03. The waiving of this notice is prohibited. So in other words, the member who is in contradiction of some rule or policy has to be notified before any meeting takes place. The notice shall state the proposed recommendations to council for termination of appointment of the members and the reasons advanced for the recommendation. Where authorised by legislation, the matter may be considered at a meeting closed to the public. 6.03. The notice for termination of appointment and any other supporting documentation shall be sent directly to the member identified in the motion by registered mail, the secretary of the committee, the director and the clerk within 7 days after the meeting at which the matter will be presented. Okay, so you're going to get all of the documentation, you're going to know exactly what all of this is about. The committee member identified in any notice for termination of the appointment shall be advised of his or her entitlement to forward a written response to the Secretary of the Committee, the Director and the Clerk within 7 days of receipt of the notice of the supporting documentation. 605. After the period for response as set out in section 604 has expired, the Secretary of the Committee shall place the proposed recommendation to Council for termination of appointment, any supporting documentation and any written response received on the agenda for the next scheduled regular meeting of the Committee. Where authorised by legislation, the matter may be considered at a meeting closed to the public. The committee member identified in a notice for termination of appointment shall be allowed to make a final presentation to the committee prior to a vote being taken on the matter. The recommendation to Council for termination of appointment of a member of a committee appointed by Council requires 2/3 vote of the committee for approval. And then there is another section here about if it's the council actually wants to remove the member, and it's basically just a repeat of the process. But each step of the way, the committee member has the opportunity to see the accusations levied against them and an opportunity to respond before a vote is taken. Okay, so let's see what they're planning to replace it with. 6.1. Any member of the committee, board, task force who misses 3 consecutive formal business meetings without being excused by the committee, board or task force may be removed from the committee, board, task force. This is the interesting bit. 6.2. The committee, board, task force may recommend to the council the expulsion of a member, or council may remove a member for reasons including but not limited to. Okay, that's a very important 4 words there, but not limited to. The member being in contravention of the Municipal Act, the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protections of Privacy Act, the Provincial Offences Act, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Okay, now this is the really interesting part. The Code of Conduct and Ethics for members of committees, boards and task forces disrupting the work of the committee, board, task force or other legal issues. Recommendations from a committee, board, task force regarding expulsion of a member shall be directed to the mayor. Any member, staff, council member, council or a member of the public has the right to identify any alleged non-compliances to the Code of Conduct and Ethics members of committees, boards and task forces. The individuals shall bring the matter forward to the mayor. 6.4. Council has the sole discretion to terminate any city, committee, board, task force member. So there you go. You have no rights to speak up for yourself. You have no right to hear what the accusations are against you. This is so draconian. This little section right here, you have stripped out any rights that the individual has, the individual member has. And of course, if you have somebody there who is passionate about something and that goes against the grain, that means they can be removed in a heartbeat. Please call your counsellor. Call your counsellor and tell them that you do not agree with this amendment. Well, as you can see, that is quite a change in the process to remove a member from a committee. And of course, as you saw, there is no possible redress to this. It certainly reads as though any member of the public, the council, anyone can submit a complaint to the mayor, and a decision is made in secret, that the member on the committee is not allowed to make any representation, is not allowed to see what the complaint is, who the complaint came from, or speak out on behalf of himself. I mean, that is a total removal of your democratic rights for transparency and the right to see your accuser and to answer the accusations levelled against you. Now, where might this be an issue? Well, for example, there was a chap who lives basically down by the dump, the Lindsay Ops dump, and he has a farm there, and because the clay liner in the dump has a crack in it, it is basically polluting the groundwater there. And if you drive into the dump, you'll see on the edge of his farm that there are these pipes sticking out, and these are test holes that have been drilled into the ground to monitor the seepage from the dump onto his property. And so anyway, he joined the Public Review Committee, which is the basically reviews the waste facility, and he was a royal pain in the butt. Okay, now of course he was a pain in the butt because he lived on the edge and he had a real vested interest. The way the dump was managed, the garbage used to blow. It wasn't just a water issue, there was garbage would blow from the dump onto his property. So he could be considered to have been disrupting the process of the committee. Okay, now that's reason enough to get you off the committee. So where is the opposition? This allows the city to basically get rid of anybody that stands in its way, and you will not know what happened. You will not be privy to that information, and you will just be gone from that committee. That means that there will be no opposition. What about people who are from the Kawartha Lakes Taxpayers Association, or ourselves, Citizens for Direct Democracy? I'm sure the council thinks that we have been a real thorn in their side, and should any of our members want to join one of these committees of council and start speaking out against some of the things that we feel are an issue, well, we'll just be off that committee. And I don't know whether you realize why this is so important, why we have this voice, because all of these rights that we have, the right of free speech, the right to express ourselves, they all came from a very brave set of people who spoke out, who spoke in contradiction to the status quo. And of course, you know, one of the main ones for women was Emily Pankhurst, who chained herself to the gates of Buckingham Palace and refused to leave until women got suffrage. In today's world, she would be arrested for sedition and put in some terrorist camp somewhere. I mean, we wouldn't have any of the rights that we have today. Just think of all the people, Martin Luther King, okay, all these people who stood up and spoke out against the mainstream, and we now think of those things that they said as normal everyday wisdoms. So here we have a council that looks as though it's going to pass this amendment, and you know, these people, these councillors, will stand at the cenotaph on November the 11th, and they will talk out about our boys and girls who go overseas to fight for democracy on our behalf. And yet here at home, these very same people are frittering away our democracy one bylaw at a time. And I can assure you this will be in our report on all of the councillors, because this is unconscionable. I don't know if any of them have contemplated what this actually means or the long-term consequences of this, but I would urge all of the councillors to vote against this motion, this change to the bylaw. It should be the way it is written, that you have redress, that you have notice, that you know what the accusations against you are, and you can stand in front of council and speak up for yourself. Okay, so if you want to join our group, we will be picking up meetings again in March or April once we get through the winter, and I will leave the contact information below, and please drop us an email, go to our website, go and see what we're all about, but we will continue to keep an eye on council, to read those agendas and to watch all of the things that are being voted on over the next 4 years. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this video, and I hope that you were informed, and I hope you please call your councillor wherever it may be and tell them that you do not want this bylaw amended. But it will have to be quick. It looks like it's going through at the next council meeting on Tuesday. That is in about 3 days' time. I am amazed that this has only come to my attention this late in the day. I didn't see any of this in the newspapers. Maybe this was just a completely internal decision. Okay, well, thank you very much. This is Steve Clark signing off. You take care now. Have a great weekend. Bye.